Hikmet Hajiyev can join us now live from Baku. He is the assistant to the president of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the head of the Presidential Foreign Policy Department. Thank you so much for being with us. Listen, I first have to raise an issue with you that hasn't quite been mentioned yet, but it has just come out that Armenia is now accusing Azerbaijan, actually, of shooting down one of its fighter jets. I first want to get your response to that. Turkey has already said it's absolutely false information. Let's hear from your administration.
Thank you. We also made a same statement, and it's in a propaganda and it's in a disinformation. Azerbaijan doesn't have an F-16s, and also it's a quite a ridiculous threat. We have checked all our radar systems, and even from the territory of Armenia, there was no take-off Su-25 military aircraft from the territory of Armenia. How someone can hit military aircraft if there was not such a case? It once again demonstrates that it's in a fact of disinformation and propaganda from Armenian side. On a regular basis, they are conducting such a propaganda.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to actually go back to the beginning briefly with you, because we know Nagorno-Karabakh is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan. So why, after decades, after this dispute actually started, is it still allowed to be occupied by Armenian forces?
Yeah, unfortunately, 30 years, Armenia's occupation continues against Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan demonstrated strategic passions. We have been engaged in the negotiation process to have a soonest resolution of the conflict. But what we have seen that Armenia drags the resolution of the conflict for many years with the sole purpose of annexing sovereign territories of Azerbaijan. Once again demonstrates that Armenia's intention was not a peace. Armenia's intention was about keeping occupation and consolidating the status quo of occupation. And they used the negotiation process only as a facade. Therefore, Azerbaijan's strategic passion also has its limits. And unfortunately, we also seen yet new provocations and military adventures from Armenian side starting in mid-July this year, particularly with a Tovuz incident that happened on the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And since then, we have seen that Armenia is preparing something much bigger, something in a larger scale. Tovuz event was a launch pad or preparation for this attack, and we have also monitored concentration of their troops along the line of contact. It finally ended up on the 27th of September, Armenians' military attack against Azerbaijani civilians. But it obliged Azerbaijan, by exercising its right for defense, to conduct peace enforcement operation to finally enforce Armenia to peace and to stop Armenia's provocations, military adventures, and policy of occupation against Azerbaijan.
Right, that's what you're calling for. But I mean, how does this really get solved? We've heard a number of parties call for proactive international mediation, yet the EU has indicated that foreign powers need to stay out of this conflict. What do you want to see?
So we want to see an actual prevalence of justice and prevalence of the norms and principles of international law. Armenia is an occupant country, and we have 4 United Nations Security Council resolutions that constitute a legal political framework for the resolution of the conflict. And in the Minsk group process, we also have a roadmap how to resolve the conflict. And the roadmap starts with the withdrawal of Armenian troops from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. Have Armenia implemented its obligations? The answer is no. On the contrary, they become more aggressive, as they adopted very aggressive national security strategy and defense doctrine. Their defense minister called it new territories and new wars. Azerbaijan's expectation is that international community should also live up to its obligation. Obligation is about demanding fulfillment of the norms and principles of international law and demands of the United Nations Security Council, and put in a diplomatic political pressure on Armenia. To resolve the conflict, occupation must end. No country can tolerate occupation of its territories. And we also see that Armenia continues not to implement United Nations Security Council resolutions. And yesterday, there was one initiative from one of the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council to convene a discussion or consultation within the United Nations Security Council. My question, 25 years since the adoption of the United Nations Security Council resolutions on demanding Armenia's troops withdrawal from occupied territories of Azerbaijan, why there was no, for the 25 years, any single session of the United Nations Security Council, demanding Armenia's withdrawal.
Right. It seemed as if they, it was a frozen conflict, and as long as it was frozen, people wanted to put their efforts elsewhere, and now we've seen the consequences of that. But let me ask you, one of the issues some Armenians have brought to the fore here is that they say Nagorno-Karabakh is a territory of ethnic Armenians, and that somehow they need to protect their people. Is there any reason to believe that ethnic Armenians would somehow be marginalized or even be in danger once incorporated, as international law has called for, into Azerbaijan?
If you look at the history, Armenians lived very happily within Azerbaijan. Nagorno-Karabakh was one of the most prosperous parts of Azerbaijan until late 80s. And Armenian separatists and terrorists started with so-called secession of Nagorno-Karabakh from Azerbaijan, and aftermath of this development, Armenia, as a sovereign nation, launched a military aggression against Azerbaijan. And we do consider that Armenian community of Nagorno-Karabakh, or our nationals of Armenian origin, are nationals of the Republic of Azerbaijan. We are ready to guarantee their full rights under the constitution of Azerbaijan. And also, we shouldn't deny, but at the same time, rights of Azerbaijani community of Nagorno-Karabakh, who have been ethnically cleansed. And Armenian side currently fulfilling with the occupation policy in the sovereign territories of Azerbaijan completely denies even existence of Azerbaijanis. But what about the rights of 1 million Azerbaijani IDPs and refugees? Within the territorial integrity, we are ready to provide all fundamental rights of Armenian community of Azerbaijan as well, even mechanisms of self-rule, but within the internationally recognized borders of Azerbaijan.
Okay, Hikmet Hajiyev, thank you so much for joining us there from Baku. We appreciate it.